It's a beautiful day in the neighborhood, a beautiful day in the neighborhood. Would you be mine? Could you be mine? Would you be my neighbor? Everybody, it's good to, sorry, you know me. It's good to be here. To draw over other apps. I don't know. I got a new phone. Oh boy. And now when I go to try to do Facebook, it's asking me all these questions. I just want to go to power to the people, that's all. If you don't know, you can permission required. Facebook needs permission to draw over other apps in order to enable this feature. Then when you press OK, apps, I don't know. I don't know. So
boy.
Okay. I went from my Apple. I'm no longer Apple.
I know, he went back to Team Green Bubble.
That's right. And now you can't beat this. Thank you. You can't beat this camera. I just got to figure out how to share. What's the matter? Oh yeah, that's my new phone. See, I got the fold. No. This is the fold. You gotta know the difference. See, let me see. Share. All right, now I think I'm okay. So this one folds that way. You see what I mean? And then when you fold it closed, you got the stop it. You got a screen here.
Sorry to the radio audience. We just
Hey, well, first of all, no, it's all right. I'm still trying to catch up on sleep. I told you last week, me getting up to take this boy to school. And then last night we had a tremendous time at the Calvary Baptist Church.
My God.
Tremendous time. Big ups to the pastor there. He had revival after having anniversary on Sunday and then having EJ there on Tuesday, Pastor Bishop Bronner on Wednesday, and I don't know how I got in the lineup to be there to close out. So God was gracious, and we had a great time, just a great time.
I actually told Leah in the car, I think last night watching you minister, I think climbed into top 5 all time for me.
Really?
And those in church will kind of understand this language. I said that was like a convocation message. Like watching you go forth was more like you were preaching in a convocation, not a revival.
Wow, and everybody who knows me knows and hopefully this won't be taken the wrong way, I don't enjoy preaching. I enjoy serving, and I preach because it is a call on my life. It is not, I have friends that be like, oh yeah, man, I'm preaching here and I'm preaching here. I turn down almost most invitations.
Yes.
Because the preaching moment is not the place of that I feel most comfortable. It is the serving moment. Let me serve. Let me help, let me aid, and I'm in my zone. I'm excited. Let me have to preach, and I have anxiety. And that's just the real truth. And I think when you are honest about, where your passion is.
Yeah.
My passion was when we were giving out the sneakers and feeding people and pallets of book bags. That's my passion. The other day, someone's family lost their house. It burned, caught on fire. My passion was making sure they were all right. So there's a difference, there's a difference for me. So yeah, big ups to Calvary in their revival, and thank you for having little old me. And y'all packed the house last night, all the way up into the balcony. So it was a good time. I got a lot to talk about. I'm probably gonna make some people mad, gonna make some people glad. I'm in one of those seasons I really don't care. By the way, I came out of my house today, and there was this basket, and I didn't have a chance to really read it, and I didn't open it, and I didn't put it in my house because I guess it's about, I don't know who sent it, and it's fruit. Sadly, the plum trees have become overwhelmed by black knot fungus. Although we've been pruning and feeding the trees, there is no cure. I'm afraid we only have 1 to 2 years of plums. The apple tree is healthy. I don't know, but it was on my doorstep. So it's maybe it's from the fruit belt, you think? Some plums and some apples. So if anybody wants them, you can have them because I don't eat stuff left on my doorstep. I don't. I appreciate it though, but I gotta see somebody. You know what I mean? Man, it's a lot going on. A lot I want to talk about today. You can bring it. I told you I'm tired. I'm physically tired. I talked to one of my son's principals today, and I talked about this last week a little bit. Thank you, grandson. And they're still going through it, man. Parents are still being real upset about buses and all that kind of stuff. I'm not going to take this show up to talk about it, but I will say at the top of this show, again, parents, please be careful in how you act in front of your children. Please, because it carries on. I got on my Buffalo 5 shirt today. Because if you didn't keep up with the news, they were exonerated yesterday. Which means their names are clear. Two of them were exonerated yesterday, which means their names are cleared. Their names are finally cleared. And again, I want to thank Paul Cambria, his team, the other attorney, the name is misses me right now, that worked on this, that went in, that did it pro bono for free. Now they want to pursue a civil suit. Some say that they're not eligible. I want to know the legal stuff behind them not being eligible if they've been exonerated. But I do have to say this to the DA Flynn, who did not object to the exoneration. Now, I got to say that, folks, because if he had this could have drawn out. And he decided to leave it alone. And he even admitted, and this is no commercial for him, but I say it because you got to be fair. He admitted that the case that was against them years ago was weak. So he did not fight it. And so big ups, this is a year in which a lot is happening for people who feel that they have been wrongly accused or wrongly convicted. This was the year that we got Carriel's Law through. As Monique said in the song that she wrote for, I want to see them run her paper. And that includes if the city of Buffalo has to pay. I'm voting all day long, yes, and yes. I've been on record of saying that. Someone sent us an email about what happened to police reform. What have you been asleep? We've written so much and changed so much, and we're not done. But don't let people who just always want to complain about something fool you that there's nothing being done. And I'm not going to take the time on this show because I've already done it. I've run the receipts, and we've got to do more. And I'll tell you why. I want to talk a little bit about, and I talked about this, I talk about it a lot, about local news. And this is not just local news, but even national news, and why it is so important to have people of color. And I'm going to say this, even beyond African American. We need African Americans. But we also need Latinos, Latinas. We need new Americans. But let me deal specifically right now with African Americans. But we need all types of people in newsrooms. And in Buffalo, and I had a conversation with someone who is in TV, in a newsroom, who took exception to me saying this, and I don't care. I don't care. I'm going to keep saying it. At the end of the day, we still do not have a presence in the major media outlets that is very diverse. We don't have it. And I travel all over this country. And when you go to cities that have a mix of African Americans, of Latinas, Hispanics, of those of the Muslim faith, and I know I'm mixing things, but the point is, you turn on that news, and that news reflects the people. And I'm not talking about no weekend anchor, and I'm not, and thank God we're getting to that. But I don't think we still have an anchor of color on in prime time, full time. I don't think. Right? We don't. Madison was the last one that probably had the most major gig, and now she's moved on to a major market, and I'm seeing her stories. I'm seeing her stories on other people's channels. Why is this so important? And this is not, I'm not battling the stations. I'm just making an observation that's important. So if anybody from any station wants to call me and have exception to it, and you can call me, because I'm going to bring it to you. I'm going to hand it to you, because it not only needs to happen locally, it needs to happen nationally. And let me tell you why. Why I'm on this kick, and I'm eating my very healthy protein bowl and missing the potatoes. Young lady goes missing, and I didn't print that article. She does something called van life, and I've been following van life because that's really I could live van life. It's people who they live in their van. They go all across the country in a van. Now, the only problem I would have is the showering part. But some of them make their own showers. They buy showers from Amazon and shower outdoors. And so there's kits for that. So I follow it because I'm amazed by it. So she's on this cross-country trip with her boyfriend. And he comes home, like to his parents' house, but he comes home without her. My little hat crooked.
I thought that was just a swag. I was good with it.
No, it's not. He comes home without her. Then he takes his backpack, leaves his phone, leaves his wallet, and goes into the Florida nature preserve. So they're searching for him. They finally find her body. It's news all over the world, and I get it.
And I'm getting ready to just pull it up if I can.
You're gonna find it. It's new. There it is.
And this is from the BBC. So
Yeah,
you said it's worldwide.
Worldwide. Gabby Petito, body found in Wyoming, is missing van life blogger. And let me say this off the top. My heart. Everybody knows. If you don't know, let me tell you how I feel about murder and people. Obviously, I spend a lot of my time comforting families and helping them through situations of homicide. They find her body, so my heart is with that family, 100%. But I want you to notice it was on the BBC. I want you to notice it was on Al Jazeera, I think it's called. I want you to notice it was in every major newspaper. It was lead story on World News Tonight, all over. I am still trying to grapple with what is the difference between her and Jelani Day, who is missing, but they found him. I think I saw it about an hour ago, found his body. Daniel Robinson, Xavion Smith, the 12-year-old we've been looking for that I don't think has ever been found. And if he was found, that wasn't news. What's the difference? And now you have even our Native American brothers and sisters who are talking about the amount of people that are missing from their communities that never, ever get this level of attention. And even locally, and this is, I'm a local guy. I'm trying to, I got to deal with local issues before I deal with abroad. At the end of the day, the reason it is so important to have people of color, not just, now the anchor desk is very important because they're the ones that are kind of weaving these stories together, right? But it has to also be in the head, at the top of newsrooms. Like we have to have people who are making decisions about what stories get covered and how they get covered, or else you don't know the heart of a people if you've never been a part of the people. And if you don't understand, for instance, African American culture, African American hurt, African Americans who most of the attention from news outlets has historically been the negative part. I think there's more intention now, and I commend those who are intentionally, like, I don't think it's bad to intentionally say we're trying to diversify. We're trying to diversify. I don't think that's bad. I think it is healthy. I think it is good when you are in people's living rooms several times a day and you sending out reporters. If you don't know a people, how can you cover it accurately? There are people missing right here in Buffalo, New York. Now, the one I will say that there was, I think, a lot of coverage, and that was the young lady from Buff State. But I also want to remind you, she had a very famous, I think, uncle in the music industry, and he was going off. So that brought the attention. What about people who don't have famous uncles? What about people who don't have the attention? Their heart is just as broken. There are homicides out here right now that have occurred. Right now, as I speak, and there are people who have given up information. And I want to say this, and I got to say it because if we're going to talk about it, we got to talk about it. It's very difficult to solve a homicide without anybody saying anything, without any footage. You can't just go out and charge somebody because you heard a rumor. In this instance, this boy's family is talking. Like he left in I think they said a gray Mustang, and they went and got it, and they say, and he left without a phone. They ain't covering it up. He left without a phone. He left without a wallet. They gave the information. But there are countless amounts of crime that has happened even locally that if it goes away, if it's just a blip on the radar screen. I know at one point, one of the major newspapers here, where we only have a newspaper, was really intentionally trying to dig back so that if there was a homicide, that it wasn't just considered a homicide. They went and interviewed the family, and I've seen a slowdown in that. And I'm begging news agencies at this point. You have so much control of the narrative of the story, and if you don't have people of color, and if even like now, we got new Americans here. If I were a news leader, I would need to get information from them and connect with them so that I can cover their stories better. It has to happen. Because when you turn on the news and you're in people's living room, you are also creating a narrative that other people follow. Haiti, for instance. Look at the coverage of Haiti, of the Haitians in Texas. Now, first of all, these guys on these horses who are using the reins allegedly like whips, they shouldn't be able to. Let me say that. But here is my confusion. I've been to Haiti. It is one of the roughest places I've ever visited in my life. I have never seen poverty like I've seen in Haiti. I didn't see that when I lived in Panama. I didn't see it in the Dominican. I didn't see it in Mexico. Although there are, Colombia, all these places, although there are. Haiti was by far the most impoverished place I've ever seen. Now they don't have a government. The government is in shambles. People are looting and stealing and raping. And then you have these people who are coming over, I guess from Mexico and other places, coming through Colombia, risking their lives. They get to Texas. They've got this tent city set up. And because they don't have any food, the Border Patrol, is surrounded it. So they can't go into Texas to get food. And of course, if they go into Texas, they ain't coming back to the tent city.
No.
So they're going over this little waterway back over to Mexico. And you literally see them bringing food over. And so when you look at the coverage is so important, because when you look at the coverage of Afghanistan, and my heart is bleeding, honestly, for the women and the people of Afghanistan who are now under Taliban rule. And just today in the national news, the Taliban are saying that they are going to go back to cutting off hands because it is the right thing to do. They say, and I'm going to read it. So I'm not just making it up. That coverage to me is a lot different than the coverage of the Haitians, and it's unfortunate. I don't know if you've seen anything about have you seen anything about the Texas and the Haitians?
Yes, I have. And I've been having a few different conversations because I've been trying to figure out my feelings around it. Like, I've had different emotions because I guess, of course, like you said, my heart is bleeding for every Haitian that's trying to find a better life. I'm not talking about that in any stretch of the imagination. I think it was the immediate backlash of, this is President Biden's fault. He needs to be doing something. And I'm like, whoa. Like, okay, let's slow down. Like I agree with your statement. The Rangers using the reins and the whips, completely out of order. But let's not forget, those aren't Biden appointments. Those Rangers have been there for God knows how long. And unless somebody there who's in charge is controlling that, I don't see. Now, of course, I think the White House probably was seeing it the same time we were, because it wasn't like they got the footage. This was a media outlet that released these images and these videos. I think it was one of those like, hey, man, let's just figure out what's going on down there before, like you said, we jump to conclusions, because I think it immediately kind of became the black-white thing. And I get that, too, because there's certain parts in the Gulf where I think certain islanders can get in with no hassle. I have so many feelings, and I've still yet to wrap my head around it.
And Mark, that's why I think, first of all, I do think that news is so important. And so that we can wrap our head around it from different angles,
Right.
And be able to advocate, for what we feel is right. Again, I've been there. Trugi says, can we talk about how Haiti and the DR share the same island, and because they're darker, they can't get resources? Oh, I've been to both. I've been to the border of Haiti and the DR, and I know, for instance, in DR, and I mean that's a whole nother discussion. They are being, like, you have Haitians who've been born in the DR, who were born in houses, who were born in the field, who do not have birth certificates. If they right now, today, I'm not talking about 2 years ago, today, if they are caught outside, they get picked up and go to a country that many of them can't even speak the language because they've been in the DR all of their lives. And I have told this story, and I haven't told it in years, of how the DR changed my entire life, and it was really Haitian children. And I didn't know it at the time, and I had rented a car. I went off the resort. I'm driving around, and there's these kids out there, and they've got on, like, it's hot in the DR. They got on torn sweaters, like, that it's not weather appropriate, and they're not in school. And I pull over, and they spoke Spanish, and I talked to them in Spanish and asked them why they were not in school. And they said to me, "We can't go to school." And I didn't understand it. Like, you can't go to school, and they're like, we're Haitian, but they didn't speak anything they didn't speak the language of Haiti. They spoke the language of the DR, which is Spanish. And there were several things that happened on that trip. And when I was flying home, I was crying, like literally crying, literally, because I kept going back to this little village. I kept going back, and buying stuff, and just my head was messed up. I have to be honest. And I came back home, and this changed my life. I came back home. At that time, I had a Jaguar. I took the Jaguar back. It was a lease. I had several months left on it. I took it back. When I went in, the guy said, "Oh, I'm glad you came in, because we got a new black one that I know you like." And I was like, I don't want this right now. It was a season in my life, and I bought my first Volkswagen Bug. And I tooled around in that little Bug, and I, on a Sunday morning, gave away all of my jewelry that I had at the time. I had a 1 carat diamond ring. I had this, that. I gave it all away. And I didn't give it away to take back to the DR. I gave it away because I had to get into a space where things did not mean anything to me. My heart was broken, because I realized just how not only blessed we are, but how spoiled we are at times.
Yeah.
And so I went through this period of time in which I just didn't need any things. I didn't buy any clothes. I didn't do any of that because of that. So when you talk about the struggles of others, and when you talk about these Haitians, if you don't understand that a lot of what Haitians go through worldwide, and the lack of attention to what they go through worldwide, I believe is directly related to the color of their skin. And I believe it because I see it both locally and nationally and internationally, where some countries will get so much more coverage about their situation, and so much more aid even from the United States. And then other countries, it's like, so what?
Well, and I was going to say, that's not a history of the people of European descent treat countries different based on the resources they can get out of that country. So that's why I think we're also seeing the attention out of Afghanistan in the Middle East, because of the resources we can get out of the Middle East. Countries in the island
Good point.
get more attention because of the resources some of the European descent can get out of those islands, and even in South America and Central America.
And because some of these places are great places to have a vacation.
Yes.
For Americans, let's be honest, and for the world. So we ignore certain things, like some of the things that go on in Colombia and all of that kind of stuff. Yep. But we still aid. And then when it comes to Haiti and these countries, especially countries of color, it is almost, look how long apartheid went on.
Yep.
Look how long in South Africa, we're trying to plan a trip to Africa, and somebody said, "Why don't you look into South Africa?" I said, right now, I ain't feeling it. I can't. I can't. I'm in this place and space. I supported a council member, and big ups to him. Council member Mitch Nowakowski wrote a resolution welcoming Afghans. Those who are coming in from Afghan. I am like this far from writing a resolution to welcome Haitians. Like, why not?
Yeah.
If we're going, matter of fact, I think I probably should, because if we're going to welcome, and I supported that, by the way, his resolution. I asked to be signed on to it. But if we're going to be welcoming, let's be welcoming to those who are suffering, and that has to be black, brown, and white. That's what America's about, and that's what I mean, some of us didn't get welcomed. Some of us got
Stolen.
brought and bought and stolen, and we're yeah, just criminal things happen to us. But I don't
By
blame
criminals.
by criminals, by criminals. So now this same country, the people, some of the people whose ancestors from the same country were criminals are now trying to criminalize other people who are suffering. I think I do understand about controlling the borders. I got that. But when we left Afghanistan, we left with tens of thousands, I think, of people. We brought them over. We brought them over. And I'm not against that, because if they aided America, and again, I can't even imagine where young ladies can't go to school. I can't imagine beating women in public because they don't have on the proper clothing. I can't imagine it. I can't imagine, because we've come so far and have so far to go in the United States, but I can't imagine a woman not being able to run for office. But I also can't imagine in a place like Haiti, where there's no government, where they probably need more aid than they ever have needed in history. Possibly. So I'm reading this thing that says Taliban executions and strict punishments will return, and it is from Axios, a news agency, and it talks about, it's a real brief article. It talks about Mullah Tariba, who was the justice minister and oversaw religious policing during the Taliban's previous rule, said that while judges will adjudicate cases, the Quran will be the foundation of laws in Afghanistan, per AP. Tarabi added that the government is studying whether carrying out punishments publicly will develop a policy going forward. What he's saying, everyone criticizes us for punishments in the stadium, but we have never said anything about their laws and their punishment. No one will tell us what our laws should be. We will follow Islam, and we will make our laws our Quran. Cutting off of hands is very necessary for security, he says. A day later, the State Department expressed concern over this decision. That news is getting covered. But the only news that I found this morning on Haiti was about them coming across the water. I did not find the same type of coverage of what Haitians are going through in Haiti. The coverage was after, like you said, something was leaked, that some news reporters saw them literally utilizing some type of leather strap as a whip. This is why we must have those who are in rooms of authority, who are making decisions about coverage, to understand the plight of people that you may have never met. Now, great respect to reporters. I always have. And people know I don't run from reporters. I answer their questions. But you must realize that most reporters have gone to college. Some of them do not have an experience. And so when you got a young reporter who maybe has lived in the suburbs all of their life and went to college, and great journalists, I miss sometimes the days when you had journalists who lived in the city, who ate in the city, who played in the city, who grew up and knew what a city was about, and what people that they're covering was about. So that's just my little rant on that. Please, local news, and anybody who wants to call me on the side, you got my cell phone and you want to let me have it, trust me, probably today ain't today. Probably you probably need to wait till Monday after I done got a little rest. You probably, because I'm just gonna be honest with you. I'm gonna hurt your feelings. I'm gonna hurt your feelings with my honesty, because Yeah, I'm gonna hurt. I'm glad to see. I see black weather folks right now. It's a young man on one of the news
Yep.
stations. I thought all of his clothes was too short, and then I found out that's his style. He a cool dude. I'm thankful to see him, and he's smart. There's a young lady on another station, smart doing the weather. We have a sister doing sports.
Yep.
Shucks, and y'all know I ain't no big sports, and she done taught me some stuff. I am thankful for that. They're in front of the camera, and that's important. But I'm going to say it again. We need some news directors. We need some folks on the desk that we see every night that is more diverse, period.
And I was going to just close. I think you kind of also stated it when you said about those that stay in the community. Because I think right now in journalism, Buffalo is a mid-market city. So now everything is like, well, let me get to Buffalo so I can get to my next big station. And no one ever gets grounded into the fact that where you, like you said, you can stay and then grow into that news director and have that kind of influence. I think everything right now is, oh, well, I was in a small city, now I'm gonna come to Buffalo, which is a mid-market, just so I can get to the Charlotte, Atlantas, the Phillies, and Dallas, or wherever else you're trying to go. And I think we lose that because then the good reporters that build the rapport, they're out the door.
Yeah.
And when their contract is up.
Yeah, I agree. I agree, and that's what's happening in this market right now. And this is no disrespect to any reporter.
Nah,
Because if
get your
you've
money,
done your
Ike.
work, get your money, do your thing. But I have to represent a minority of people who are not in the newsroom as far as when decisions are made, who don't own stations. Again, and I know people probably get tired of me saying it. One of the reasons we invested in this station was to have somebody of color own a major station in the city of Buffalo. And this is not taking away from any other station, because we do have another brother that runs a station, and I want to be clear. So more of that we have is important, because the one thing nobody can do is come in here, and I got to thank Hobson's and Brian K. Lewis, because even in all of the years that they have been sponsoring, not once have they called me and said, you can't talk about that. That's the been, and if it did, and if it was something that I agreed that I went wrong, I would cease. But it just hasn't happened because they allow the conversations to happen. If I were on another station, it may be more control over my content. By when Sheila said this is what she wanted to do, this was not for me about playing music only. This was about how does the voice get out there. When the Buffalo Five, when they were going through, I want you to look at that. When the Buffalo Five was going through, I don't know of a major news radio station that gave them I don't know, I said, so I want to be clear, that gave them as much attention as this station did. I don't know of any. I don't know. And so I think this is so important. This station has the most talk shows African American talk shows in Western New York of every other station. Every other station. And if you don't think that's important and why you should support your own, I don't know what else to tell you. I don't know what else to tell you.
You should take a pause and read the comment from Shepherd Mother.
There's a comment here. Off topic, totally off topic, but the fitted cap glasses is very much giving delicious. So the other day I was walking through the house with some basketball shorts on. She was like, "Look what I did. Look how I made you."
I'm so hood.
Let me tell you why I got on this hat, because I have not shaved my head in 3 days. And this morning, it wasn't happening. It was not happening. What else do I have here? The missing band. Let me get some of these comments. Sharon.
Oh, they all on Shepherd Mother right now.
Yeah, I see it. Chucky. Sharon Patterson White. Now I'm all messed up. Now
You should be after that comment.
I'm all messed up. Oh, here's something else I want to talk about. Let me read any other comments there, Mark.
Hold on, let me scroll up.
I don't want to miss. I don't want to miss our people.
Kamal says, the nation paints the world in black and white. God made a diverse humanity, not just black and white. What else do we have here?
Charles Calvin says you should do that.
They talking about the rezo.
Yeah, I'm going to do it. So let me tell you all, I'm going to do it in the next council meeting. I will have a resolution that is similar in asking Buffalo to welcome Haitians. I'm going to do it, Charles. I'm going to do it. Matter of fact, when we hang up, I'm going to direct council staff to draft that memo. And yeah, okay. What else we got?
Let's see. So you had Chucky and Katrina Martin that co-signed writing it. Carolyn Lane said they are punishing Haiti for gaining freedom as a prominent black nation, and that's part of the reason they're in shambles. Shuki said the most powerful resource from Haiti is manpower.
Well, and you know that they are sending a lot of the men back and keeping the women and the children and deporting a lot of the men is what the reports are saying. And this has been a problem, especially for people of color, for
Still
centuries.
The black man.
Still separating the black man. You know, I don't agree when a woman is on public assistance and that man can't be in the house. I think the man should contribute. I always feel that way if he's able. But I think we have to get to a model of trying to keep families together rather than having to hide so that we can get assistance. You know, when the thing about the pandemic, when the pandemic hit, it didn't just hit black folks.
Sure did.
Because if it did, it wouldn't have been no stimulus money. My opinion. My opinion, if the pandemic only hit people of color, wouldn't have been no stimulus money, wouldn't have been no extra unemployment. But when that pandemic hit everybody, then the government said, we got to find a way.
Well, and again, history tells us, even under Bush, the bailout only came because Fortune 500 companies were getting ready to fold.
And you got it. And then bailouts came from everywhere. And if you remember, the last time the government bailed out companies, they only bailed out companies. They didn't bail out people.
Right.
And so I am not against the stimulus money. God knows I'm not against the stimulus money.
No, he did. He gave it to us in our tax returns. So
once.
Yeah,
it wasn't what we're doing right now.
No.
It was a one-hit wonder. It was not at the level. Excuse me while I chew. It was not at the level.
But those people of color, we did exactly what they wanted. We got that extra in our taxes, and we bought cars. we bought everything that we were trying to get to rebound, and so from their mindset, we did exactly what they wanted us to do with that bailout.
Yeah, you got to do better. What else did I have here? Police reform. Oh, has anybody noticed that there hasn't been any more talk about police reform on the national level? And I got the article that right now, where is this article? It is failing on the national level. And is this, I got so many articles here. So they can't get bipartisan support for police reform. And so it's failing. But I want you to notice the crickets. Crickets. We've got to say to our federal representatives, you got to be just as loud with the federal representatives as you were with your local representatives. And say on the federal level, there needs to be police reform. On the federal level.
Yep. And state level.
Sharpton went to Texas.
I saw that.
You saw it. He couldn't finish his speech.
No,
he had a 150-second speech.
Wow.
because hecklers were there, telling them to get out of town, telling them that their town, that Del Rio was safe, and that the Border Patrol agents were saints and angels.
And that's the other part of it. People also have to remember Texas is also down there ruling. So it's not even just all the federal government, because the Texas governor is instructing them to basically protect the border by any means necessary.
Absolutely. So they were hollering, "This is a loving community. Get out of Texas. Get out of Texas. You are wrong. You are wrong. The Border Patrol are heroes." That's the word they use. Yeah, so they booed him. So he probably had the shortest speech in his life, 150 seconds.
Now, I do have a question, though, for any Haitians that come over. How did they get over the Gulf to Texas? Because normally isn't the easiest route through Florida or some of the other closer islands?
Not necessarily. You can go from. I've read where many of them came up through Colombia, and if you can get through the jungles and you come up from Colombia, you can get to Mexico and then get up to Texas. And it just depends, on the routes that they're taking. But obviously, let me tell you something. There was some communication going on somewhere that all these Haitians made it over. If you haven't seen it, just Google it. If you haven't seen the tent city that they have built, it's a lot of people.
Well, and then my next question is, how did they get through these countries and no one noticed 15,000 plus people coming through these countries to the border? Like, there's so many other questions that I have that aren't mainstream.
Yeah.
It's like you said, can someone go and give a detailed report, not just images or things to rile people up? Like, somebody go talk to people and understand what they're feeling, what is going on. And I think that's, like you said, that's what's missing.
So here's the article about police reform. Bipartisan negotiations for police reform have broken down, thus painting a grim future for the George Floyd Justice in Policing Act. Now, come on now. Rise up and call your federal representatives. Rise up. But it's easier to do all that rah-rah on people locally who don't have the federal clout. What's going on these airplanes, by the way? All the fighting on the airplanes. And now it's reported that the majority of fights are coming out of flights coming from the South.
Oh, I believe that.
They said from Charlotte,
I believe it.
from Texas. I saw a report last night that the majority. So if you haven't seen on social media and on the news,
put my mask on.
Right, and it's mostly about masks.
Yeah.
This report is, where did I get this report from? CNBC. Delta says airlines should share their no-fly list so disruptive passengers can't fly on other carriers. The FAA says unruly passenger incidents have dropped sharply since early this year, but the rate is still too high. Airlines have banned hundreds of passengers for unruly behavior since the start of the pandemic. Delta Airlines wants carriers to share those lists. I agree.
Completely.
I agree. You on a plane fighting somebody because you got to put on a mask in front of kids again. This behavior from adults I think if you going from California to New York and you get put off a plane and you were the aggressor in a fight, I ain't talking about, you got hit and then you punch somebody back. I'm talking about you the aggressor and you hitting the air. You should have to drive or catch a doggone Greyhound. Shouldn't be able to go from Southwest over to. It's ridiculous. And when you watch it, I just think like, what's going on? Who does that? And you shouldn't be on a plane, because if this is the way you act, you are putting everybody's life in danger.
But that's also just like the family that got put out of a restaurant in Texas because I think they told their kids to keep wearing a mask. They sent the waitress over to say, oh, that's just a political statement. And I came over because my manager said I'm nicer than he is. So if you're not going to remove the kid's mask, you need to leave. And the kid has an autoimmune disease.
Jamie McKinney says, agreed, I'm over it. Jamie, what did you agree with? Let me know. Come back and tell me a little bit more what you agree with. Jamie works at the airline. I got it. Yeah, this is behavior. I mean, this is behavior, the same behavior we're seeing being thrown at bus aides, the same behavior we're seeing being thrown at bus drivers, the same behavior we're seeing being thrown at teachers and principals is now carrying over to airlines. Like, these people are only doing what they have been told to do.
Yep.
So for the record, and this is the last time I'm going to talk about this, I have nothing to do with the mandate of people, I want to talk about that, who have to be vaccinated. So a guy, and he apologized, let me say it at the beginning of this story, he apologized to me, but a guy was very upset with me the other day in a grocery store parking lot and said, why did you sold us out with the mandate? And I was like, sir, what are you talking about? And because now I'm 56 and because I've been through a whole lot this year, there's certain things, the Bible says don't argue, but there's certain things that I have to explain rather passionately. And I asked him, what are you talking about? Well, you listen to the explanation. And again, let me say again, he apologized. And he said, your church allowed there to be a vaccine site, was allowed to be a vaccine site. And I said, yeah, and I don't apologize for that. And he said, well, that's showing in your actions you agree with the mandate. And I said, it does not show, because I have not said I agree with the mandate. I don't disagree with it, but I haven't been out there going, no. But at the end of the day, I wish we didn't have to mandate it. I'm not a part of the state government. Call Hochul's office. And so in the end of this thing, after he blamed me for the mandate, and so I don't apologize for having a vaccine clinic at True Bethel, and I'll do it again tomorrow if somebody asks. I do not apologize. I have said over and over that I don't think you should force anybody. The state government is making a decision. Call your state representative. Call the governor's office. But Darius didn't do it. So that's not in the city. That ain't something the city even has any authority to do. And having a vaccine clinic, that's a problem? Well, it's going to be a problem. It's going to be a problem because I buried too many people, family members, other people's family members. I'm still burying people who are not vaccinated, and that's their choice. But it's also my choice to tell you the real deal. So like I said, he apologized. And then he asked me why black churches are not out protesting the mandate like white churches are. What? I'm going to tell you, and I told him, I'm not out protesting the mandate because it's not, that ain't my role. My role is to try to get those who want to be vaccinated, vaccinated. Now, don't tell me about what we not doing when there were protests against police reforms. Y'all don't really want me to start talking in here. I'm 56 years old. So don't tell me about what black churches not doing about protesting the mandate and why we not joining with the white church. This is what he said. The white churches out there, well, I ain't really see a whole lot of congregations come together when George Floyd was killed. So miss me with that. But again, he apologized. But, and I'm about to be 57. Lord have mercy. Lord, matter of fact, what's today's date?
September 24th.
I'm less than a month away from being 57.
Countdown begins.
I don't have time for the foolishness, man. Folks got to be educated, and I'm gonna give it to him again. He apologized at the end, which I really appreciated, but I just wasn't having it. I wasn't having it.
Well, go ahead and sip your tea. I want to get this post from Queen Doyle, and she said, what people need to know is that Haitians fought side by side with the white colonists during the Revolutionary War. They fought in Florida and other places around this country. They fought in Savannah, Georgia. She says she has an article coming out this week called "The Haitians Must Be Treated with Dignity and Respect." I've also written articles on the history of Haiti in the Buffalo News and on the history of Haiti. I did a 4-part series and also produced a DVD on Haiti. The name Haiti is an Indian word due to the fact that it was the original home of the beautiful, and I know I'm going to mispronounce this, Arawak Indians.
You're good.
There is a monument on the Haitian soldiers who fought in the American Revolution in Savannah, Georgia.
Maybe we ought to get some of her information to include in the resolution.
Yeah.
So that people really understand why this is important, to welcome Haitians to City of Good Neighbors. That scores a lot in today.
Yes.
I had a lot to talk about. I had a lot to talk about.
Yes, you did. You know what I enjoy the most about the show, and this is some background. So normally Friday mornings, people stop me hey, so what y'all talking about on the show?
Wow.
No idea. I said, you know when I find out? When y'all find out.
Well, I try to talk about what people are talking about. What people are talking about at their house, and what and then try to bring some more content to it. And then the folks on Facebook, and when we do open the phone lines, really add to that argument, or not to that argument, to that conversation. Hobson's, the doctor of dry cleaning, 874 East Delavan. I took so many clothes over to Hobson's the other day.
I started my pile this morning.
Dude, I took it was ridiculous how many clothes, but I let them pile up. I let them pile up. So I went over there, and I got there at like 5 minutes to 6. I felt so bad. I said, if there's people in here, I'm not taking my clothes in. I'm going to wait. It was Saturday. I said, if there's people waiting in line, I'm just going to drive around with these clothes until Monday. Because I didn't, it's fine. When you're ready to get off work, and you're ready to shut down and close that register. And here comes somebody with a load of clothes.
3 laundry bags.
Yeah, and they were so nice in there. I think it's Mr. and Mrs. Hobson's grandson, the Hobson's grandson, and he's just like, "Hey, how you doing?" They're just so nice, and they took care of my haul of clothes. Hobson's, the doctor dry cleaner, 874 East Delavan Avenue. That's why we're able to have these conversations. And of course, Brian K. Lewis Funeral Homes, 3 locations to serve you: Peckham, Bailey, and Sycamore. In your hour of need, ask the operator for Brian K. Lewis Funeral Homes. Listen, it's been a great show. I'm going to work for a couple hours, and then I'm going home and take a little nap, man. I got to take a nap. I might shave today, too.
Yeah, you might as well wait till Sunday.
Well, today is lobster tail and fish day in my house, but I was going to cook the lobster tail on the grill, but it doesn't look like the weather is going to cooperate. So now I'm going to have to find out how to cook lobster tail in the house. Oh, well. Big problems. Until next week, power to the people.